Welcome to the Soccer Coaching Podcast, brought to you in association with our friends at Soccer Coach Weekly, reflecting our shared ambition to help coaches have the most effective, enjoyable and successful coaching journey for them and their players. We hope you enjoyed this episode and thanks for listening. Hi Jason, welcome to Soccer Coaching Podcast. How are you?
I'm all right, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
Top man, my pleasure again. Look, I'm so grateful. I know you've been traveling around. We've had a brief chat before we hit the record button. You're based in the US, but you're originally from the UK, and you're back in the UK for some good news and a bit of a celebration. The fact you're on your travels is I'm even more grateful for the fact you spared us an hour of your time to jump on the podcast. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I've actually got one of the books you've done, which I'm sure we're going to talk through in a bit anyway, but just a bit of background about yourself, what it is your kind of journey and what it is you currently do, if that's okay.
Yeah. I like to chat a lot, Scott. So this may take
Give me a long one, is it? Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think talking about your journey and your background is so important because I think that molds you who you are as a person. So I grew up in Bolton. Loved my childhood. My life revolved around football. Still trying to get used to calling it football instead of soccer.
Soccer.
And I was obsessed with it. Practicing every day, playing every day. Had good friends. But there's sometimes turning points in your life, ain't there? When you look back when you're older, you're like, that was a turning point. And I lived in a neighborhood in Bolton, and a new family moved in and into the neighborhood, and they moved from another estate, and they invited me to go and play for the team on their estate, and that was called Johnson Fold Strollers, and it was just the perfect environment for someone to grow up and learn about being a team player, being a quality person. It was just such a good fit for me. And I think when you are in that environment and you're learning and you're seeing everything that works around teamwork, it just amazed me. And I was only 16, but it just amazed me. It was like when I used to watch the old Liverpool team from the 80s, watching them and how they ticked. It just fascinated me on teamwork is the best way to go. So that was a great start for me in terms of playing. I played locally in the Northwest Counties and the West Lancashire Leagues on Saturday. But my education really come from the Johnson Fold Strollers team. I played for that team for 15 years. I had trials with Bury and with Oldham. I wasn't good enough to play at that level, but I just loved playing. You know, if I was in a locker room with a group of people that wanted to work together, it was just an amazing feeling. It didn't matter to me what level it was at. So then once I started playing and I started seeing friends retire from the game and not be involved, because I'm so obsessed with football, I couldn't vision me ever being without it. And it's like, well, I'm going to have to stop playing sometime. So then when I was 24, I started taking my licenses, and it's like, right, this is the way I want to go. So when I do stop playing, I'll be ready to just step into coaching and I'll have some experience, because I certainly don't want to leave this game. This game is everything to me. So I started doing some scouting for Oldham Athletic. And then when I was 26, I was lucky enough to be hired by Preston North End to work in the academy. And that was another thing. So now I'm playing in this environment that is all about team. When I went to Preston, that coaching environment was all about team. So now I'm just surrounded by this group of people that are just all about working together. And it was such a fantastic foundation for me. Gary Peters, he took over the academy after 12 months. I did get thrown into the deep end when I first joined North End. I was doing the under-16s boys, and I was not, and I shouldn't have been coaching that level as a rookie. So when Gary started, I spoke to him and said, listen, I'm not qualified to run this group. Can you put with me somebody? So he put me with Jed Starkey, who was an A license coach, and he was a fantastic mentor for me. He allowed me to be myself. He gave me constructive feedback. I was always a person that could take constructive feedback. So that was good. So I worked a couple of years with Jed, and then for the next 3 years, I had a team of my own. But Gary just built a team of staff who were all about team. And if you weren't on board with that, he was pretty ruthless. He got rid of you. And but that was a perfect environment for me. And then in 2003, I moved to the States, met my wife, Tammy. She played. And when I first moved there, watching the women play football over there was just mind blowing. The quality was unbelievable. I mean, my wife, she played Division One college. She was on the national team at U17. But she was so humble. She'll never tell anybody. And that's what I loved about her. You know, she was so humble. And then 2008, I moved to Oregon from Virginia. And I coached at FC Portland, actually, in 2008, just as a coach. It's a club that's been going since 1987. It was founded by Clive Charles. He used to play for West Ham. And Clive had great values and morals, and it was a club that I wanted to be with. And now I left and retired from coaching because it was a struggle sometimes, the American culture, because nobody had a plan. And as we're going to probably talk about later, having a plan is so important. Whether it's sports or it's business, having a plan is important. And I really struggle being in an environment where there isn't one. So back in 2019, they hired me as the director of coaching. So that's where I am now at FC Portland, and I love it. It's great when you're working and it doesn't feel like a job.
That's when you know you've cracked it, right? That's
Oh,
that's pretty good.
best thing ever.
Well, what I love about getting people's backgrounds, Jason, is you get a real sense of kind of what's important to them because everyone's got their own different ways of seeing things, right? And I mean, you said team and environment so many times during that like synopsis of your background there. Was it Johnson Ford Strollers? Was that the team?
Yeah, Johnson
Yeah.
Falls Strollers. I mean, it wasn't just the players; it
Yeah.
was all the people that come watching. Scott,
Yeah.
they bought into it.
Oh, and what because I mean, like when we go back to maybe football of our generation a few years back, you know, it was probably a little bit more old school in a sense of it was, you know, it was camaraderie, definitely, but it wasn't. I don't know if the environment was ever the focus. It was probably more about get together and win games, you know. And if it was good, if it was a nice moment, that's a bonus. But that wasn't always a focus. What made it kind of so? Why did they get it so right there? Do you think?
I think because it was an estate where the majority of the team, apart from myself, grew up together.
Yep.
And I joined that team when I was 16. These players were, 10 years older than me. So I was the young one, and I've been playing with these players who were probably 25, 26, but they grew up in the estate from being kids.
Yeah.
And there was no plan. We didn't have a plan. The plan was you work your tail off and you be a good teammate. And it was, and honestly, Scott, it was just, and then all the fans had bought in, but we just followed that process. And then that's where you see it's like, wow, this is just, it was unbelievable. Yeah, we didn't really focus on, oh, we'll win at all costs. It's like, we'll follow the process and whatever happens, happens. And when we didn't win, we'd go back to the pub and we'd talk about it and we get on with it.
Yeah.
It was just so good for me.
And when you were doing your coaching at Preston North End, obviously you said you started down the 16s. I can imagine that's, that's isn't in the deep end very much so, right? Especially being relatively young yourself at 26. What did you stay with that age group under Jed's supervision, kind of a guidance, or did you look at other age groups, or did you work across age groups across your time at Preston North End?
Oh, I mean, when I first got that position, I said to the people at the time that were running the Centre of Excellence, I don't think I should be doing this. And obviously I don't want to name names, but I didn't really get good mentorship at that time where, they would tell me that I'm not good. It's like, well, and I'm open, so I don't care. But I
Yeah.
would say, I
So you
know
get better, right? Yeah. So you learn.
I know I'm not. I said,
Well,
I told you I shouldn't be doing this. But then Jed was doing the under 15s. So that was when Jed. So Andy Lonergan was the goalkeeper at the time as a kid. Um, so that was the team, and Jed was just such a good person, but a great teacher. Where he'd say to me, "You're not here to pick up cones. You're here to get better." And I'm going to help you. And it was just it was great for me. Those were my best times, Scott, being an assistant and standing back
yeah.
and learning all this stuff. It was a great experience for me. And then I took over the under 12s. Myself and Julian Darby, we ran the under 12s. So I was head coach for 3 years, and then I left because of circumstances that are happening here, and I got a chance to go to America.
And how would you describe your own coaching philosophy? And I know philosophy is a funny word to use, but I guess a sense of you as a coach when you're out doing your coaching and stuff. What would be your approach to how you kind of I guess your main priorities with regards to sessions and putting things together for the players?
Yeah, so my philosophy, when I get a team, so say if I've got a team or a group of staff like I've done at FC Portland, I always believe that before we start on, what my playing style is or anything, we have to set a set of values. What are our core values within the group? And I always start with that first, but I always allow the team to pick them. So if the club has some values, that's fine. But I always let the team or the team of staff to pick them. So we'd meet at the office and we'd go over it, and the players would write down a bunch of core values that are important to them and what they think are important to the team. And I tell them to stick them on the board. And we may have 30 things on the board, integrity, accountability, and all these. And then we say, right, out of all of these now, let's pick 5 that you guys think are important to you guys as a team. So they go on. Sometimes they get 4, sometimes they get 5, sometimes they get 6. I don't want it to go too crazy, but I allow them to pick it. So it gives this sense of accountability, and hopefully accountability is sometimes one of the core values that they have. But they now own them because they've chosen them. And I say these are not mine. These are yours. Whatever you pick, I will be on board with them. But they're your values. This is where we start. So I start with that, and that always seems to bring them together a little bit. I definitely work on trying to have this togetherness as a team. And then once I've done that, I make sure I really do focus on the person first. I get to know each and every one of them because I think it's important, especially what we've gone through over the last couple of years with youth players. It's so important to understand what goes on in their life, how's school and how's home life. And you've got to find out all these things because you can't treat everybody the same. We're all different. So I focus on the person first, and I work from that. And then I then think I've got to be the hardest worker. I've got to prove to this group of players or this group of staff that no one will work harder than me. And I want to I want to show that I care about them. So once I've established that, now it's like, right, now I can go on to my philosophy. So my philosophy is built from a preferred playing style, and in that playing style, I would have principles of play. So the playing style and the principles of play is built from the 4 moments of the game: attacking, defending, and the transitions. So I do that. Then I have a practice philosophy. So my practices are designed with the style of play and the principles in mind. So when we do go to a practice, and the players get all this information too. So when we do go to a practice, and if I'm working on a defending session, I'll tell the guys or the girls, hey, here's what we're working on. What moment of the game would that be? And you get them to speak out and open up. So they'll say, "Oh, we're defending," and I said, "Okay, get together in groups of 2 and 3. Give me our first principle in defending." So they're telling me what we're doing in terms, and it really, really helps, Scott. It does. It really helps. It gives them clarity. So if we're working on defending and something else is poor, the shooting's off, I don't get too caught up in that because my focus is here's what we're working on. So I do that, and then I make sure my practices they're fun, they're engaging, they're competitive, they're related to the game, which I think is important. So that's my practice philosophy. Then inside my philosophy, I have a learning philosophy for them. We call it the OODA loop, which is if you have an issue, you observe it, you have your options of solving it, you decide on one, and then you act on it. Because we create this challenging environment, we embrace you're going to get things wrong. And we embrace that. Especially in the culture in the US, Scott, it's really, and I don't know what it's like here in the UK because I've not been here for 20 years, but failing and not winning is not a part of the culture I'm in. It's sad, but it's just not accepted that you can fail and lose. So that's why I brought that into my philosophy where it is failing is not opposite of success. It's part of success. It's part of it. And so we embrace getting things wrong and learning. And I say to the players, I just want you to make a decision. Whatever decision you make, we'll then talk about whether it was the right one. I said, but if you kick the ball into the parking lot and I ask you, what was your decision? And you say, I wanted to kick it in the parking lot. I would say, good job. That was your decision. But no, was it the right one? But at least you had one and you executed it. So I think trying to get the players to understand that their environment is safe for them to get things wrong, especially, like I said, with what they've gone through, it really, really helps them to relax. I think it helps with anxiety levels that they have. That, oh, in this environment, I'm allowed to fail. Because, like we say, we don't know what they're having back home. And then my last one is, I call it our performance philosophy on our decision making. I try and encourage the players. Every decision is based upon the ball, the space, opponent, teammate, and the goal. So whether you're defending or attacking, your decisions have got to be made on those reference points. But obviously, as players are younger, there's no way those things can go through their brain and they make a decision. So with our U9s team, we just try and encourage them to make a decision based on what the opponent are doing. And that's it. Because they're not going to be able to remember all those 5 reference points. So as they grow older, it's like, well, the ball's pretty easy because we always know where that is. But now try and base a decision on, right, what the opponent doing. Yeah. And it will help you. But if you're not scanning the field and looking around, you're not going to make any decisions. So I base it on that. And where I see it's helped the players, especially having a style of play and principles of play with young players too, especially girls. If you change the formation, it can create so much anxiety for them. Oh no, you're playing 3-5-2 now. But we've seen over the last few years of us doing this that we tell them the principles stay the same. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
Our style of play doesn't change. The principles don't change. So you don't have to worry. So it's really reduced that anxiety levels in all our young players when we do change a formation.
By having that clear kind of foundation and then that clear philosophy, your playing principles, and then obviously having those practice principles that you've got different things feeding into that, does that clarity and communication to the players allow them to be, I guess, more expressive in how they embrace training and how they apply themselves and give them that freedom just to go and play? I mean, do you find you get more out of the sessions because the players have that clarity in what the expectations are, in the sense of I know we're going to work hard, we're going to train hard and follow the principles, but actually we're going to do it in a fun, safe way where we know we can make mistakes and that's okay?
100%. And like we say, they talk about this emotional intelligence now of a coach. That word has come out now, and it's so true. It's like start focusing on what they can. If you focus on what a 9-year-old cannot do, good
A
luck
long
with that.
session.
Good luck with that. You're going to be there a long time. And then if you start deciding, well, what's wrong with the game, and the list is a mile long. So you've just got to prioritize, right? What's my priority? Pick the top one or two. Sometimes with boys, when I get them at U9, it's behavior, and that is it. And I say to the coaches, focus on the behavior.
Yeah.
And then they're talking about, oh well, Barcelona do that, and I said, stop. Stop. If you don't fix behavior and respect for each other, you're going nowhere. There's no learning. So I've seen over the years, allowing them to make mistakes, Scott, that's the biggest one for me, because as soon as they come in, we tell them what we're doing and we say, right, are you going to make a mistake tonight? And they'll all be like, yeah. I say, good, I am too.
Yeah.
We get on with it.
I've got a question for you then, because I mean, obviously, you're preaching converted here. I'm sold on it. I became a lot better coach when I realized actually don't focus so much on the X and the O's in the session, focus on the environment, and then I thought, okay, so what are my core values? How can we get that across to the players? How can we get them in their process? And honestly, I've still got a long way to go, but just the whole thing got a lot better for me and for the players when I focused on the environment first rather than the sessions. And we have our core principles, we have our 6 behaviors, and and it's a mantra for us, and the players know them inside, upside down, and everything just runs so much easier, and it allows you then to focus on the football, doesn't it? But my question for you then, obviously, because I can imagine you're superb at doing that because you're obviously passionate about it and you get it. When you're looking after other coaches and you're trying to create environment across the club, how easy is that to kind of make sure that doesn't get diluted down and you have that consistency in delivery even when it's not you leading it?
That's the hardest part of the job. If you're a coach of a team, I think it's quite easy to sell your values to that team. If you're running a company or you're the leader of a youth football club, now you're trying to get your messages to the staff. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do, because you've got good people on the staff and you've got people that don't quite buy in. But that's, I've been doing, this is my 4th year now, and I'm still grinding away at convincing them that this is the way we should go. And we had a coaches meeting 2 weeks ago, and this experiment fascinated me. 10 years ago, it'd have probably drove me crazy. But you learn a lot, don't you, about dealing with people. And so we had the coaches in, and we were going over at the start of the season. Here's, back to on our blueprint. So I had 3 big sheets of paper, and I said to them, right, we're going to, this group's going to design a warm-up. We're going to do an attacking session on switching the point of attack. This group are going to do the warm-up. This group are going to do the second phase. This group are going to do the third phase of the practice. And then we'll put them all together and see how it looks. I said, but our principles of attack are printed in the top corner. So then on the sheet, it said, right, what are your coaching points and what are the principles of attack that you'd use in your session? And so we did it all, and it was great. The coaches are interacting with each other. So when I got them, the principles were made up by each group, and not one principle of the blueprint was mentioned. And I thought, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because they've had this blueprint, and the principles are actually on the piece of paper for them, but they've put their own in. So then it's time to talk and say, right, so we counted them. So in the 4 moments of the game, I think we've got 21 principles. So I said, if you bring yours in, now these kids are trying to remember 36. Remembering
Not going to happen, is it?
No, remembering 21 is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I said, this is fascinating to me. But they don't do it with intent.
Of course not, no.
And I think that's the key. If you've got people in your organization that are willing to go against the beliefs of the team or the company, you're not going to go anywhere with those people.
Well, you mentioned the blueprint already. So if it's okay with you, I wanted to focus the chat really around this concept of a blueprint and a coach's blueprint, which I know is something that you've written about and the book's excellent. And I know you obviously know this inside out. But for those coaches that really don't or aren't familiar with the term blueprint or how you might see it or view it, what is a coaching blueprint and why is it important?
Well, that's the important thing you just said there, isn't it? Is how I view it. Well, the people are going to listen to this and be like, well, I disagree with him, which is fine. We're all going to disagree on a certain amount of things, so it's fine. But mine is like my roadmap. I never travel without it. I take my passport and I make sure I take my blueprint, and I brought it with me. While I came here, I brought it with me. And then I gave it to one of the local soccer clubs here last night and said, take a look at that and let me know what you think, and I'll help you. I'll help you do one. Having a blueprint, I think it just increases your awareness of what should be done and why it should be done. And I think it, like we mentioned before, Scott, it just brings clarity to everyone in the organisation. I think you send a message. This is how we do things around here, which is also a good message. So you're creating clarity there. It's a foundation for determining your actions. It'll not cover everything. There are things that are going to get missed, but as long as you're ready to adapt and evolve and change it, it's fine. You are not going to cover everything in your blueprint, but you must be ready to adapt to any setback that you have. We've heard a lot in the last 12 months about this emotional control, this emotional intelligence. It's so important. If you have a plan, that all this anxiety, all this chatter in the background, it just doesn't seem to happen when there's a plan. And the importance of it, why I have it, is like you don't have anything to hide. Everything is here. And I embrace people trying to help me to improve it. You really can't do this by yourself. At FC Portland now, I've been there. This is my 4th year, Scott. It's our blueprint has been changed 3 times, and this is only my 4th year.
It's a working document, right? You're always going to review it and amend it and improve where you can. And I guess do you find by writing things down and putting it into a plan, you're more likely to stick to it, and at least as in try and stick to it and follow it through rather than kind of jump from one thing to the next?
Yeah. I think me personally, if I write it down, or more so if I say it, I hold myself accountable. So, none of us are perfect. And there have been times where you think, I may have crossed the line with my team there. But I'll make sure that if I think I have, I'll apologise. It's not been too crazy. I don't want that to sound like I'm crazy, but it's not been too crazy. But
you reflect and acknowledge it and go, actually, I could have done better there. But that's okay. Yeah, we're all learning.
Or if I've argued with an official in front of the players, I'll say, look, I'm sorry, that was unacceptable. And I think once I say it, or if it's a blueprint and I'm writing it down, I think you do stick to it if you do say it. Yeah, so I do that. And I think, once you're big onto establishing a blueprint, then everything, you've got something to judge your decisions on.
Yeah.
So if you're giving your pre-game talk to your team, you speak about your blueprint. And at half time, if they're not executing the principles, you can speak about it and you say to the players, what do you think is happening? And then you can go through the principles. So you've always got something to fall back on and relate to. And then you can also see, Scott, right, who is on board. So if you go into an organization, you say, right, we're going to change things here. I want you to help me. This is the way that we're heading. And then you quickly see, right, who are the team players here? Who are the destroyers? Who don't want anything to do with it? And no matter what, you'll never convince them. So that's where it's really helped me to just find out who's on board.
So let's imagine a coach, maybe they're already in the middle of a team and they're, done it for a couple of seasons, whatever else, and they like the idea. What suggestions do you have for them about how they might go about putting their blueprint together? What should they look at? What should be in their thoughts potentially? And what might they consider?
Right. So I think the trick is trying to create a philosophy that suits your personality. Like I say, with my upbringing of playing for the Strollers, going to Preston, that was a massive, massive education for me. But it was the right environment for me. You know, if I hadn't played for this team, or if I'd have gone to Preston and Gary Peters was not hired, I probably wouldn't be the same person I am today. So I think build a blueprint that suits your personality, and it gives you the best way to develop a football player. You know, what is the best way that you think is that you should be developing a footballer? Because winning games should come really from having a high standard of performance from your blueprint. Because I also, you know, there's an American football coach from the 90s in the USA, Bill Walsh. He wrote a book, The Score Will Take Care of Itself. And that's how I've always believed it. If you have this process of following a plan and you've been tweaking it over the years and you're happy with it, then all you have to do is follow that plan. And I believe the results will take care of itself, especially in youth soccer. You really shouldn't be driven by winning. The players want to win. We definitely want that. We don't want players saying, well, I don't care about winning either, coach.
No, and that's the trick, right? That's fine. But as the adults in the room, you want to be able to say, right, yeah, you go and want to win, players, but we'll create the right environment around that to make it about development as well, which might include some additional challenges, things like that. But actually, if we make it about winning as well as the coaches, then I think we've even walked out on the pitch, right? You're done already.
Yeah, because players want to, you know, a parent and a coach should not really be driven by winning a game.
No.
That shouldn't happen. But, you know, once you've established the route you're going to take in building your blueprint, I think then you've just got to have the courage and the discipline to apply it, because you're gonna continue to have doubts, because you've got to convincing your players is easier. But if you're trying to convince staff, whether you're an organizer, a business, or at a sports organization, you've just got to have the courage and the discipline to continue to try and prove this is the path that you're going to take.
Do you think a blueprint should change depending on which age group you are coaching? I mean, could it run as an umbrella across, like, from under 6s to under 18s, or would you think, actually, do you know what, I might have a blueprint there, but it might tweak slightly depending on what age group the coaches are closer to?
I think in youth sports, it's, you know, so it's not the blueprints that I design are not dictatorships. It's just here. So if we're doing the younger ones, obviously they play in different formations as they grow older. So we play the same formation at 7v7, because we play 7v7. I don't know what they do here. I know they do 5v5, and then does it jump to 7v7, Scott?
Yeah, then 9s and 11s.
Yeah, so we have in 7v7s we do have a set system, which is just a 1-2-3-1. It's like, well, that's pretty basic for that. You know, there's lots of triangles on the field, but when we went to 9v9, and this is where we adapted. Years ago in my blueprint, we only played a 2-4-2, a 1-2-4-2, because that worked in our environment in Oregon. So now, as society changed, and, you know, with COVID and just how society's changed, we only had one player on the wings, and now these kids that we're getting now are not willing to run as much as they used to. So it was like, oh shoot,
yeah,
it's not working.
You'll put 3 at the back.
Yeah, so we now changed it to, you can use this one, or you can use the 3-4-1, or you can use a 3-2-3. But it's not this, right, whatever suits my team. It's like, well, they're 9 and 10. You've not got a team where you can say, this is the best system for us. That's my opinion. Anyway, I know obviously people listening will have the set systems that they think suits the team, but when kids are so young, they can adapt. But we adapted ours because we saw in society, and after COVID, that the kids weren't running as much. So playing a wing back out on there that's got to go up and down. And
hard work, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's not going to work.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of it as well, isn't it? You've got to do what's right for you and the environment and the players that you've got, haven't you? There's no point in trying to put square pegs in round holes. You've got to adapt things, and maybe a good blueprint is one that has a good maybe skeleton to it, but it has that wiggle room around it that you can tweak and change to make it work for how things might be for you, and also how things may change for you.
Yeah, I think making it easier for people who are listening, who are looking to do that. I think starting with a style of play and your principles of play, that's fine. You've started with, so don't try and look at one and be like, oh my gosh, I've got to put all these in. I've got to put my player profiles. What does a number 2 do? What does a number 3 do? What does a 10 do? Don't worry about that. But I think if you started with, right, what's my style of play, my principle play in those 4 moments of the game? And I know we talk about the 5th moment being set pieces, but I think at youth level, that's not as a priority. Maybe obviously when the players get older, that may come into your blueprint, but we've not gone on to set pieces. I don't
Yeah.
think that's as important yet. But I think if somebody starts with that, Scott, now you're on a path to building it. And you don't have, I mean, you don't have to, but you won't get your blueprint right in the first attempt. Like I said, I'm on my third one.
Yeah.
It's my
Yeah.
fourth year, and I was
Yeah.
panicking a little bit. But then I spoke to a guy who runs a club in Chicago, and he said he's on his seventh.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I
and
don't.
that's how it should be, right, though, because you're not going to get it right first time. And actually, things will be evolving. So even if it was right for that moment in time, there's a good chance that 18 months later it will need to change anyway, because things would have changed, right? Well,
Yeah,
the game changes a little bit, doesn't it? And things move on and evolve too.
yeah.
From what you've seen just around and stuff, what are some of the pitfalls or mistakes that us coaches make when we're trying to do these things, and maybe we miss things out or we don't get it right? Some of the common areas that you've seen.
Obviously, I'm going to have to speak from living in the States, haven't I? Because I've been there 20 years. The culture could be a massive stumbling block if you haven't got someone brave enough to deal with that and deal with that honestly. That could be a big downfall for you. To sell a plan to any group, I think you've got to have a high degree of integrity. You've got to have authenticity. And I think you've quickly got to build trust within the people that you're working around. That for me came from my upbringing, with my father, with playing for the Strollers, with working at Preston. It was just like, you look back on it now, Scott, and you're like, wow, I'm so lucky.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky. So I think trying to sell my plan by going that way, I would never lie to anybody, and I don't deal with the finances of the soccer club, so it's good for me. I don't get involved with any of the money because our coaches get paid. Our general manager, who does a great job, he deals with all that. So I stay out of that. I'm here to help you develop as a person and a coach. And once you have one, the proof is you've got to show proof that it works. I did a bad job when I first took over at FC Portland. I designed a blueprint and just handed it all out, and because I was new I had other fires to put out. I was not focusing on the staff, and I just handed it out thinking, well, of course they're going to read it, of course they're going to follow it. And
Yeah, not everyone's quite as passionate, are they? Or they have different passions.
no.
You've got to help them maybe have that focus as well. And so maybe is it perseverance? I'm trying to think of a word that might be important to help this work, because I know lots of really great coaches that are nice people, volunteers, usually parents, and they have some great ideas, and they'll. One week I'm getting a text message about this idea, the next week it's something else, and the week I did something different, and I kind of think, well, actually, Joe, if you just stuck with one of those things and saw it through for a few months or longer, you're probably get more chance of getting successes and persevere with it. I guess with the blueprint, that's the same thing, right?
It's definitely perseverance. Like I say, if you're a coach of a single team, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But perseverance, even with that, is so important. But you still have to sell it with proof.
Yeah.
Right. Why? So a good example is I last year I took over our 2008 girls team, and I'd already been at the club 2 years. So when I take them in the office and start going over the blueprint, they're all looking like a deer in headlights. And I'm like, oh, you've not seen this yet? And they're like, no. So then I speak to the coach and say, hey, look, and then, you know, he was great. You know, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I said, I'm not saying we're going to win games because you didn't do it, or we're going to lose games because you didn't do it. Sorry. But my life would have been a little bit easier if we'd have just gone through a few of the principles. But then watching this group of girls team that I had, Scott, and bear in mind, this was our record through the season because we were playing in the ECNL, which is a very, very competitive league in the States. It was formed for females first, and now it's boys as well. But we played 20, lost 19, tied 1, scored 1 goal in those 20 games, and conceded 107. And this is where I learned more than I've ever learned with this group about the emotional intelligence, making sure I focus on what can they do. Because if I focused on what can they do, I'd have ruined this group. And we used to do video. We had the VO, film all the games.
Yep.
And we used to just clip every single time they followed the plan. And then we'd show them and say, look, you did it for 5 minutes in this game. Fantastic. Can we do it for 10?
Yeah.
The next.
Building up.
The funny part was they would keep asking me, have we got to 10 minutes and ready for switch off? And I'm like, no. You keep going. And
that's not the limit. Keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. And then our second to last game of the season, we played a team that had already beat us 8-0, and we played them and we tied 0-0. And
that's a win.
I felt a little bit like Mourinho and Simeone. I parked 3 buses, and but the girls, you know, they just kept coming back for more, and nobody quit. And
to me, that speaks volumes. I mean, look, like you say, like everyone wants to win, but actually, even the players, I think most of the younger players, particularly after the game is finished, 5 minutes later, they're done. They couldn't even take what the score was. They're not bothered. I think the parents and coaches it's still in their heads for a little while longer. But if you've got a team that doesn't win and regularly loses, but they're still coming back, I think you're doing something right there, you know. And I know teams where they win a lot of games, but the players aren't happy and they're always moving around. You know, I think, well, actually, that's a good start, and that's a great foundation to build on because you're doing something right, aren't you? And you can bring in other bits.
And we just let them know that we cared about them.
Yeah,
it's fine. And I really learned so much, Scott. And it's like I'm 52. And I'm still learning so much. And it's such a good feeling.
You said it in the bit before about feeling so lucky about your own journey. And I think that's part of what we try and do as coaches, I think, isn't it? I mean, my passion really comes from the fact I would love these kids that I have an opportunity to influence in some small way on their journey, you know, just look back at one day and say, I was lucky to be part of that group or that environment, you know, because not everyone is, right, and it's not all like that. It's not like for all the players. And if you can create that environment, it's the results aren't so important. It is the environment that they're going to remember at the end of it.
Yeah. We had Nelson Mandela had a quote: "I never lose. I either win or I learn." So we brought that into the group, and I think, you know, when we said, "Oh, do you write things down or do you say something?" I think that helped me. Once I said that to the group, now it's like if I'm frustrated, if I go off on one, the kids would be like, hold on.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
We never lose.
We're learning.
We win or we learn. Why are you going crazy, coach? Yeah. So it really helped me control my emotions better. It's like, right, this is the team's motto. And the girls just embraced it. And it was such a joy to watch. The parents were great. They left me alone.
That's a huge part of it as well, isn't it? I think if you could get the other stakeholders kind of on the song as well, particularly parents, obviously, because these things aren't in isolation, they're an important part of the process. And if they can see it and believe in it, then you've got your time and stuff, and they know it's the right thing for their child, then that helps. More broadly then, if you don't mind, again, I don't know how unfair this is going to be, but I'm interested to know your thoughts on this. I wondered, because you've obviously done a lot of coaching, you see a lot of coaches, you see a lot of sessions, you're heavily involved. Just broadly, do you think as coaches we're getting things right? Generally speaking, I mean, I'm sure there's work we can do, but, you know, what would you say we are getting right, and where might we want to be looking to try and improve?
I think where you've got a little bit of an advantage over me is football is everything here. So you've got a really good advantage of building a blueprint, I think, whereas in the States, football is not really a priority. You know, the kids will come to practice, they'll never watch a game. they'll never touch a ball until they come to your next practice. So I think we can get it right here is people love the game. People are obsessed with the game. So we've got a big advantage there. The key word that you said is improving. That's one thing that I see with coaches sometimes who I'm dealing with, and learning is a skill. And when you said, I learned that, I'm 52. I learned more last year with my 2008s than I've ever learned ever. Where I'm on my licenses and getting questioned by the staff on my team's not good enough to do a license, and I say I'm going to prove you wrong because I shouldn't stop my education because you think my team is poor.
Crazy. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to prove you wrong. These girls I've learned so much with this group who scored 1 goal and conceded 107 in 20 games than I've learned with any other team I've ever coached.
Is that how it works then, Jason? That you've got to be linked to a team that plays at a certain level of ability to be able to progress on?
Well, I didn't think so. I mean, obviously, when you go and do your pro license, you've got to be linked to a team. But I don't think so. I think,
because it seems like surely that's the coach that probably needs like the help and the support and the learning, because actually obviously things not a reflection of you how the results are necessarily, but actually we need some support there. I never understood this thing where you kind of have to be at a certain level to get the coaching that you need. I think you need it before you get there, right? Because that's how you learn. Otherwise the players always can be behind.
Yeah, but every credit to this assessor. I got him I changed his mind for him.
Right. Yeah. Fair play.
And he was great. He was great about it. He said, I can't believe that this group's still together.
No, yeah.
And I said, and it's definitely harder in the culture of America, where failing and losing is unacceptable. This is why now I coach. We have 4 teams at U17s. So I don't want to be a club that takes as many players as we want just to get the money. It's like, no, first of all, I want players that want to play. So our 2006 boys are a pretty good group of kids, and it used to be my old team, and they've got a good culture. So a lot of players want to play for them. But once we found out we've got 4 teams, I said, I'm going to run the 3rd and 4th team, because selling a 3rd and 4th team to an American child and an American parent is a difficult sell, because playing on a 3rd and 4th team it's not how it should be. And so I've been doing it with them and, working on this emotional intelligence and selling it to the group and being like, guys, I'm going to put you in a division where you're going to get challenged. It's going to be suitable for you. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you're the 3rd team. So we've done that. I would say, focus more on the psychology part. Of the 4 corner model, I think they're all important, obviously, but I've always been a big fan of the mental side. Bill Bezic, he's one of my favorites. His book is another thing that, his book, One Goal, never leaves my side. And then I got Bill to do a Zoom call with all our coaches last December, and that was amazing. Because he's an absolute. When he speaks, it's so simple, but he makes you walk on water. It's like, oh my gosh, this guy's a genius. And I think after COVID, I think it amplified it even more for me. The psychology part for these children is so important. And this is why I help them navigate the winning, Scott, and the losing, where I said, look, I wanted to be a professional footballer, but look where I am because of football. Yeah. I'm a US citizen. I married a fantastic person. I've got 3 kids with her. I'm here, the director of FC Portland. That's offers me way more than if I played professionally. Exactly. And it's so important to sell it that way, on how important playing sports is for you. It's not about whether you become a professional. It's got other things to offer that are way more satisfying than whether you become a professional.
And what you haven't mentioned yet, modestly, I think, is obviously the books. You've got 2 books now, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Let's bring those up. So, Colin, how do they come about? Talk us through the first one and then the more recent one, if that's okay.
The first one is when I first So this was 2014, and I couldn't get into any club and do a blueprint. It was bizarre. So I got the chance of, there was a club that was just recreational, which was in the autumn, in the fall. But the president was from Leeds, and he wanted to build a year-round program because players kept leaving who wanted to play year-round. So he's like, right, Jason, will you do it? And I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, we're interviewing. And I said, right. So I got in the interview, and they've all got the notepads. And I said to them, hey, put your notepads away. I'm interviewing you guys. I said, here's what's going to happen. You don't have to pay me a penny because I've got a job. We're going to bring staff in that follow a blueprint. We're going to write a blueprint, and no player will ever get cut while I'm in charge. If you don't want any of those, I'm out. And they said, let's do it. So that was the first time I was ever trying to implement a plan. And so when I said to him, you know, because I still had a day job, I didn't do it full time. So I said, look, I'll do 3 years and let's see what happens. And oh my gosh, Scott, it was fantastic. So then after that 3 years, I'm like, I think I'm going to try and write about, you know, setting a plan. So that's how the first one came. And then the second one came. That's just about, I think it's the ramblings of a madman, really, Scott. But I, you know,
you're supposed to be selling it.
It was when COVID hit, and we're on lockdown, and you know,
you versus you. Is this
you versus yourself? Yeah. And then as COVID hit, and obviously with my experiences of watching young players in the club, and you know, this winning culture, and if I fail, I'm useless, and if I don't get to be a professional, I'm not even going to play any sport, which is like, it's
crazy.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
So then when COVID hit and we're locked down and we're all locked in the house, it's like, I'm just going to start rambling on the back porch. So I just started rambling, and it
quite
just
therapeutic, isn't it? I imagine.
Oh, it was great. And then, you know, I learn a lot from my own kids and seeing how they behave. And, you know, it's funny, like when I take my kids to sports, I let them know I'm your Uber driver. Yeah. That's it. I might come and watch you play baseball. I may be reading a book. I'm not here to just watch you and be like, oh my gosh, I hope you don't fail. I hope you don't fail. It is what it is. But, you know, if you start ratting on your teammates or complaining about the officials, then I'm probably going to step up and say, no. So I learned a lot from them, and it's like, I'm just going to start rambling. So I started rambling, and then next thing someone said, oh yeah, we'll publish that for you. So yeah.
Well done. It's never easy doing one, but it's still not easy doing two. Will there be a third?
Definitely not.
I bet there is. Wait, well, one day we'll come back.
I've not got the IQ to write one, never mind three.
Well, congratulations on both the books. I haven't had the look at the second one, but I will do. I have got the first one, which I think is brilliant. I didn't realize it'd been out that. Well, I think, when was it released? 2017, 18? It wasn't.
2017, yeah. So I look at that now, and, you know, because of evolving and adapting, I look at that now and be like, oh, you know, I'd probably like to do a 2.0 version of it, but we'll see.
Yeah, there you go. You see, he's already planting the seeds for that yeah. Update. Well, keep us posted if it does. I'll put the links into the books in our show notes anyway. So if listeners want to find out where they can get them, we'll put the links in the show notes for that. A couple last questions, that's okay. One question we ask all our guests is, if there was one thing you could change about the world of coaching, what might that be?
Ooh. Well, one is I think this one's unrealistic, but I would like everybody to understand what long-term player development means. But that's probably unrealistic. So I would like to see, probably going off the US here, Scott, and because I don't know what they do. I've wrote to US Soccer and explained I would like them to have a task force that go around to clubs and help the clubs build their own blueprint. So, you know, obviously the FA have got the DNA, US Soccer have got a blueprint, but you never see it. You know, you've got to really go and search for it and find it. But it's like, well, if you could have a task force and then you show that authenticity and that caring and that trust, I think that would get more people taking licenses. But all this service, because of all the money that they do make, is free. And you've got to have this task force that go around to clubs and say, would you like us to help you build a blueprint? I mean, if they say no, they say no. But I would like it where, you know, this standard of performance from each youth club. You know, you get assessed by US soccer and they say, right, do you have a blueprint? And if they say no, you say, oh, it's fine. Would you like us to help you build one?
Yeah.
If they say no, why should they be accredited with running a youth club successfully when someone like FC Portland, we've got a plan? Whether that you agree with that plan or not, we've got something.
Exactly.
So I would like.
Do you think it's a lack of appetite then? Do you reckon it's clubs just don't see the value in it as much as, like, obviously you do and the others not see it? So I am passionate. I can see how the value is in that, but is it just a lack of appreciation for that, do you think?
No, honestly, Scott, I think it's a lack of the people who are willing, going to be relentless and persistent in doing it.
Yeah.
And trying to sell it. I mean, we'll probably talk about it later, but I have a website where I offer free. It's free. If you want a blueprint, I will help you, but it's going to be your blueprint, but I'm going to help you, and it's free.
Yeah.
And I just say, if you want to donate to charity, the charity that I donate to is the Wounded Warrior Project. And I just say to them, whatever you think it's worth, whatever service I've given you, whatever you think it's worth, just donate to the Wounded Warrior Project. They could give $10.
Yeah.
But I don't get anything. I just believe in this so much.
You want to put it out there.
I'll do it for nothing.
Yeah. Maybe it's a time thing, right? Maybe it's an effort and a time thing that gets people the nice intention, but actually does what the thing about the effort and time bit to me again is coming back to the coaching. Like, I actually think it's easier if you put the time up front into getting your foundation right and your philosophies lined up and all the things that are clear. Actually, you save us so much time going forward with how you approach your coaching because you've done all the hard work up front, and all you got to do is maintain it. It's like running, I guess, a supercar. If you service it regularly and keep it going, it almost runs itself. But actually, if you don't do that, you're going to end up like it's harder work trying to keep it going.
Yeah, the background noise is a lot less when you do it.
100%.
And the grief that you'll get is a lot less.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've always got parents who are going to give you grief no matter what plan you have. A parent could have Pep Guardiola take over my job. They'll still email him and tell him he's terrible.
We've all got opinions. Yeah.
But I find it that because you're creating this clarity within a group, the background noise is non-existent.
Yeah, so much so.
It makes life so much easier.
Jason, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much. Look, I know you've got an extended family now, so congratulations on that wonderful news. But what's the plans for you next? Is it going to be carrying like normal? Anything? Not obviously not a third book, but besides that, anything else that's going to be happening?
Well, obviously, being here for the next week is going to be great. Spending time with family. I work with Mossbank Juniors. They're a club in Bolton.
Okay.
I've helped them write the blueprint. So on Monday, I've got a coaching clinic with their coaches.
Brilliant.
So they've got great leadership and they believe in all that. So I've been helping them. I go back to America next Friday and just continue working at FC Portland and continue grinding and evolving and just trying to be a decent person and keep working hard.
Hey, Jason, look, I really appreciate the conversation. It's perfectly clear how passionate you are about football and development and helping. And, it's obviously come from your early days with the Strollers and what you had at Preston North End. And I think coaches often get in this world for one or two reasons. Either they've had a really bad experience, they want to make it better, or they've had a great experience and they want to share that. And it's nice when you get a coach on that's had a great experience and is putting some of that love back out and doing the same thing, in the environments they can touch. So thank you so much for your time. Maybe come back on in a year or so, maybe from the States, and let us know how things are going with Portland and stuff. And, anything you're working on, that kind of thing. Would that be okay?
I'd love to, mate. Yeah.
Top man. Jason, you're a star. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Scott.
This episode was brought to you in association with our friends at Soccer Coach Weekly. Established since 2006, Soccer Coach Weekly is a leading source of inspiration and advice for all grassroots coaches. Join thousands of youth soccer coaches just like you, saving time and effort in their goal of having the most effective, enjoyable and successful coaching journey for them and their players. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode.